I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is a fantasy science fiction and the author of the best selling series, The Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries, no other than Mr. Stuart Jaffe.
Hello there.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Stewart, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. I'm Stuart Jaffe. I'm best known as the author of the Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries, but I write a ton of different series in all brands of fantasy and a little bit of science fiction. I've been writing for almost 30 years now. I have over 60 some books out, plus hundreds and hundreds of short stories. I'm a full-time author. It's what I love doing.
Definitely. So, Mr. Stuart Jaffe, thank you so much for sharing your novel series and books to the world. And who was Max Porter and what makes him compelling protagonist in the series?
Well, the Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries are about Max and his wife. They moved down to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and he discovers his office is haunted by the ghost of a 1940s detective. So he does what anyone in that situation would do, and he starts a detective agency with a ghost. I mean, what else can you do? And I take real history of the area, usually odd, strange history, and I mix it with witches, ghosts, curses, and magic. And Max is just a normal, everyday guy who finds himself stuck in this really weird position, and tries to make the best of it. And that's where he starts off. The series has been going on for 12 years now. There's 18 books out, and I'm currently writing the 19th. So you can imagine over that course of that time, he's changed quite a bit. He's grown a lot. The relationship between him, his wife Sandra, the ghost, whose name is Marshall Drummond, and other found family that eventually comes and goes over the course of that series. It all has an effect on him, and it changes the kind of man he is.
What role does history play in solving the mysteries in the series?
Well, it'll differ from book to book, but usually there's some, oftentimes more than one historical event that that has gaps in it that I can insert magic into. So when I find a murder from the 1800s that went unsolved, that's a perfect example, and I can create a situation where, I don't know, maybe there was a curse or something like that that is affecting somebody today, and Max will have to research and find out this history, and then that'll help them as a team. He and his wife and the ghost will be able to utilize that information to solve the current day problem.
How does Max Porter become involved in paranormal investigations? Is it
A
a
lot of
spoiler? No.
no, well, again,
Is it,
really.
Mr. Stewart? Oh my goodness. We are disconnected. I don't know what happened, but well, I'm talking to Mr. Stuart Jaffe. He's the author of the book. Not actually. Yeah, he's the author, and it's a best-selling series, The Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries. And while we are waiting for Mr. Stuart Jaffe, I want to plug in my other podcast, Food 101, our fourth season with Chef Alessandro, well, one of specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. If you are interested to know where exactly Chef Alessandro working, in Toronto, please do listen to our podcast, Food 101. We always talk about food, 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 people. And last week we talked about not lasagna. Oh,
Oh,
Mr.
there we go.
Stuart is here already.
Sorry about that.
There we go. Sorry for the glitch, people. But when you are not around, I'm plugging my other podcast, Food 101, our fourth season, people. Fourth season and our fifth season already coming up. So please do listen, Food 101, on our not fifth season, I should say. But you don't have the video, Mr. Stewart. It's okay.
I,
I think you don't
it's
have.
on.
Hello,
It's
test mic.
on for
Hello.
me.
Are you
Yep.
there? Or can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can. You can't see me?
I think Mr. Stewart have a difficulties of connecting us. So again, I'm plugging my feature author of the month of December. Today we're gonna do our episode, Miss Kat Rambo, award-winning and let's say best-selling author too. Let's talk about being award-winning author. And tune in today, people. After Mr. Stewart, or I think, wait, I'll check. My feature author of the month
What
will
is
be
going
aired
on?
today at around what time? Miss Cat Rambo will be my guest. 6:30, people, to 7. We have 30 minutes to talk about, well, being award-winning author. And I hope Mr. Stewart will fix the bug and we continue what we're talking about. Party, the Max Porter Paranormal, oh my goodness, Paranormal Mysteries. And I just have a new podcast called Low 101. This is my baby podcast, started last week. And I hope you're going to support us. Law 101, we're going to talk about, of course, law. Because they saying ignorance of the law excuse no one. So we need to know what is right and wrong uh, in the Constitution. Oh my goodness. Hello, Mr. Stewart. When you are not around, I'm talking about my other podcast. So let's continue what we are talking about. My question is, can we allow to do spoiler? As I said,
Oh yeah. So
is it?
most of these
Yeah.
books have been out for over a decade. I think we've
Okay.
reached that.
Are we
Yeah,
allowed?
yeah.
Right? Yeah, because you're the author. So, how does Max Porter become involved in paranormal
Um,
investigations?
the it varies from book to book, of course. Sometimes they just walk into his office and they have a problem. One of the books begins with him with a person who was murdered and has his business card in their hand. Uh, the very first book is basically that he's been hired to do research into a very wealthy family, and that research leads him into this dark spiral down into learning that witches and ghosts and such are real. So his first case is a case that he didn't ask for. It is thrust. He's kind of thrust in the middle of it, unbeknownst to him in the beginning, and he's basically trying to figure out everything from there. And by the end of the book, he survived and he sets up his investigation agency. So
How does the series blend the supernatural with traditional detective work?
so it's not a heavy amount of fantasy. I have a lot of readers who this is oftentimes their entry way into fantasy. There's obviously ghosts, and there's a witch community and the type of magic they use, but that's pretty much the limit of it. There's no fae or gnomes or other types of fantasy creatures. So when he goes on a case, his partner, who's the ghost, Marshall Drummond. Drummond goes with him, and Drummond is a seasoned detective from the 1940s, so he knows how to do things the old-fashioned way. So, for example, if they go to investigate an apartment and the door is locked, he can utilize a ghost because the ghost can go inside, turn around, and unlock the door for him, and they don't have to break in. And the ghost will advise, in the early books especially, the ghost is kind of teaching him how to interview somebody, what to look for in a room, things like that. And as Max's knowledge grows over the course of the series, they become more partners rather than kind of a mentor-student relationship. But every way they can use being a ghost to help them, they try to use.
I see dead people, Simon says. So, what are the key supporting characters and how do they assist Max
Sure,
in his
sure.
investigations?
Well, the biggest one is his wife, Sandra. And she this is a spoiler, but it's for the first book, and you'll find it out very quickly that she has always had kind of a sixth sense of being able to see dead people. So Max can only see the ghost Drummond, and it's because the office was cursed with Drummond's ghost, and Max broke that curse, and so he kind of got linked to Drummond, and he can only see Drummond. His wife Sandra can see all ghosts, and so the three of them together are the core of the Porter Agency. And she, over the course of the series, starts partially out of necessity and partially out of sheer interest. She starts learning about witchcraft and is slowly becoming more and more of a witch, which is a big concern for everybody, including her, because she wants to be one of the first good witches out there, because most of the witches are power hungry and they have their covens and they're always fighting with each other and doing bad things. So she's trying to break that. And that's, there's this concern that if she gets too strong, too powerful, that something might happen mentally that seems to happen to all the other witches. So they're worried about that. But that's the core group. And so she uses her abilities from seeing ghosts to being able to cast some spells that get stronger over the course of the series to help along. There's also throughout a lot of the series, there are two homeless boys that they eventually adopt and become part of the family. But these guys are constantly doing odd jobs for them, and then we watch those boys grow older. The one boy's name is PB, and the other is named J, so they're called the Sandwich Boys because of PB and J. And the Sandwich Boys we've seen now to the point where in the latest books, one of them has already gone. They both now have graduated high school. One is off to college, and the other chose not to go to college and is kind of roaming the U.S. trying to find himself. And then the last main part of this found family is Max's mother, who moved down to be close to him. She doesn't believe in any of this. She's often comic relief and sometimes inadvertently ends up helping them out.
I think this is good for a series on Netflix, Apple, or Amazon.
There was interest in that going back several years. There was a producer who spent a couple of years trying to get this made. It's very difficult to get anything made into an actual show. For every show you actually see on Netflix, for example, there are thousands that never made it that far. Max Porter, the series got a lot of interest. A lot of people got behind it and attached to it, but it didn't quite make it over the finish line yet. There's always hope that somebody else will come along and see a way to do it, because it certainly does have a lot of interest and ability and accessibility to it.
Crossing my fingers. Mr. Stewart, what locations serve as the setting for the series and how do you enhance the stories?
So, sure, the entire series takes place in North Carolina. They're based in Winston-Salem. I live in North Carolina. I started writing this series because I was living in Winston-Salem and basically wanted to know more about the area I was living in. My wife was doing her master's at Wake Forest University, so I would be at Wake Forest often to pick her up or drop her off or whatever. I'm waiting on her, so I would go to the library and look around. And and how this all gets the location gets utilized. I'll explain. Easiest is how the whole thing started. I was looking through history of the area, and I stumbled across this story, not a story, this article about the fact that in North Carolina during World War II, um, the soldiers over in Europe had discovered the beauty of cigarettes and for calming their nerves, and they were smoking them so fast and so in such large quantities that the army was having trouble keeping them supplied. So the president of the United States came down to North Carolina and met with R.J. Reynolds, who runs Reynolds Tobacco at the time, and said basically, we need more cigarettes. And RJ Reynolds said, well, I could provide more. I could run 24/7 if I had the manpower, but I don't have it. So, and this is all true, we brought German POWs into North Carolina and set up small camps. There were, I want to say there were 18 to 21 camps spread out, dotted all over North Carolina. Each one would have just a handful of soldiers, POWs in, and we would bus them all into the city to work, usually at night while everybody else was asleep, and get them out before anybody woke up. And I was just flabbergasted. I'm like, I'd never heard anything about German POWs on U.S. soil during the war. This is crazy. But that was the impetus for the story of the first book. And I've told this at conventions and stuff over the years. And I've since then had people come up to me and say they either knew about that or apparently there were other farming situations all the way stretching out to Texas that have had similar situations or setups with POWs. So that's the kind of thing I try and find that history and I put it in and try and build a story around it. And they're centered in Winston-Salem, but the surrounding towns get involved as well. Anything cool I can
Will
find.
you be, Mr. Stewart, will you be my feature author of the month next year? I usually, every month, I feature author. So
Sure. I'd be
probably
honored.
for the month of May,
Sure.
because I have already in advance. So keep in touch. You will be my feature author of the month. Oh, May.
Thank you.
What themes are consistently explored throughout the series?
What things consistently
Explored.
explored?
Explored.
The main theme of the whole series that explores family and Max's desire to what it means to try and keep his family together, and him discovering that oftentimes the things we do with that goal in mind actually end up causing the opposite. And so a lot of the stories, that's what they involve. And then each individual case, each book is a self-contained case, but the overall theme, from regardless of the cases, are about that family, that dynamic of the found family as well as his blood family and how they all interact.
How did the series handle the balance between horror and mystery?
So I'm a horror fan, so to me, I don't think these books are very scary. They're not horror books that they're not trying to scare you at all. But there are many, just the nature of the stories, the fact that we're dealing with ghosts and witches, we do find ourselves walking through graveyards in the middle of the night, trying to dig up a grave and doing other types of things that invariably are intense, suspenseful, go somewhat into the thriller category. I don't try to gross you out, so it's not blood splatter kind of horror. And I think a true horror novel, if you have somebody walking through a graveyard, the point is to lead up to some type of nerve-shattering scare, and that's not what I'm doing. I'm going through a graveyard because these characters need to find the next clue, and they're trying to find information, and so it lends itself more towards the spookiness is a byproduct of the types of mysteries they're trying to solve.
How does the series explore the relationship between the living and the dead?
That's a really interesting question. In the early books, it just is. It's there. Most people don't believe in ghosts, and so they just deal with the ghosts as they are. But there are a couple times early on where Max has closer brushes with death, and he starts thinking about it a little more. In the more recent books, probably starting in the last 3 or 4, we are reaching the point where his mother has been diagnosed with an illness and and her mortality is becoming a real issue. And so the idea of life and death is taking on a more concrete form in Max's mind, and as well as the fact that because Max knows a little bit about what comes after death, at least for those people who've been cursed into being a ghost. He has that concern for his own mother, and both in he doesn't necessarily want that for her, but also the fear that she might end up being a ghost and he'd have to deal with her too, which he doesn't want to do. He'd like her to just move on peacefully.
So, are there elements of humor or light-hearted moments in the
Oh
series?
yes, throughout the whole thing, particularly there's a lot of snarky banter between Max and Marshall Drummond, and this is another. It grew somewhat naturally out of just the way these characters were, but it was also a specific choice I made. So to lighten it, partially because we're going to need a lighter moment after again digging up a body in a graveyard. It's not a horror book, so we're not trying to go intense all the time and ratchet it up worse and worse. So that humor element helps knock things the intensity down a little bit and lets us build it back up for the next for our progress towards the climax of the book. There's also the humor again. His mother tends to be a different type of comic relief, but she's there in her relationship with him. Everybody usually gets a good snarky line or two in there as well. I try to make the entire experience as varied and enjoyable as possible.
Mr. Stewart, what would be your advice for those aspiring writers out there?
So I've talked a lot before to I do writers conferences speaking to new writers. If you are at the stage where you have yet to write your first book, you're in the middle of writing your first book, or you just finished writing your first book, what I always say is simply this: take a deep breath and recognize that your book sucks. Everybody sucks. It's okay. Nobody ever, if you're a musician, nobody ever sat down at a piano, not even Mozart, and could just suddenly play it beautifully. You
Nicely.
have to learn. And so, and I see a lot of people when they're working on their first book, they get stuck because they're trying to make it perfect. They're trying to make it everything. It's never going to happen. So just let that go and write the thing. Your job is to finish it, then go back and figure out a few of the things that you can identify as sucking. Then on your next book, you try and fix those things. And then you find the next thing that didn't work and you keep doing it. And the good news is this is a practice over and over and over, and you eventually will get better. But the bad news is that it never ends. Even I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm working on a book right now, and there are things I'm like, I need to get better at doing X, Y, and Z. So that's what I'm concentrating on this time around. And then it just never ends. But that's the goal. Recognize how you screwed up in the last one and improve it in the next one.
Yes, learn your craft, people, and stop procrastinating. If you have the passion to write, write. Because who knows, you are Mr. Stuart Jaffe in the making. So, Mr. Stewart, what is your short-term and long-term goals in writing?
The short-term goals have already all happened. I've been doing this a long time. So I wanted to be a full-time author. I wanted to build an audience. I wanted to have people reading my books, make a living doing it, all that kind of stuff. And that's what I've done. Longer term goals are, some of them are out of my hands. Like, it'd be nice to have that TV show, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And there are people I'd like to work with. And I've also speaking of improving things that suck, I've just released one of my new releases is the beginning of a science fiction series. It's taken me 10 years to write this first book through numerous tries where the idea was much grander than I realized, and I didn't have the skills to do it when I originally tried years ago, and I would keep coming back to it year after year and trying, and it just would suck. But I eventually reached a point now where I had the skills and the ability to look and analyze and understand why it wasn't working, fix that. And the first book, which was called Pioneers of the Pathway, came out last month, and that's going to be a big time-consuming part of my writing life for the next several years as I write this series out. I'm really excited about that. And I also have other projects that I'm working with an Eisner Award-winning illustrator on a project that we're hoping we can get picked up by a publisher. And if it does, then that'll be another goal that I'd like to see happen. But there's always something.
Yes. Good luck, Mr. Stewart. I hope it will become like Hannibal Lecter. According to what I heard, Mr. Harris wrote that book for 10 years. Oh my goodness. So, Mr. Stuart Jaffe, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Oh, absolutely. Please, I have a ton of stuff. You can find me at stuartjaffe.com or on Facebook, on Amazon. I'm not hard to find. There's everything from action thrillers to paranormal mysteries to epic fantasy and plenty more. So yeah, come check me out, and I think you'll find what you like.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Stuart Jaffe, because if you support him, more empowering books to come. Tune in for my feature author of the month of May, of course, no other than Mr. Stuart Jaffe. So, Mr. Stewart, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.